and it's okay to be this way. If I only had someone when I was younger say, it's okay to be different. It's okay to stim or to stand there in posture, or it's okay. It's a little strange, but that's okay. All they had to do was say it's okay. And I would have
Yeah.
felt so much better about things. But they didn't.
Hi, I'm Staci Neustadt. I am a speech language pathologist and the CEO at Making Sense of Autism, and I'm a student of Susan.
And I'm Susan Golubock. I am a now retired occupational therapist who has worked many, many years after I discovered even my own autism with other autistic individuals. I founded Making Sense of Autism because of my passion to not only understand my brain and how it worked differently, but to try to explain what I've learned to other people so that they're more understanding and therefore more accepting and more accommodating to autistic individuals.
So, our goal is to help you provide the right support without trying to fix autism, but by understanding it. So, whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or just someone who wants to learn, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and join us every week. We talk about a new topic. Have you ever stopped to think about how the words you use shape how you see an autistic individual or really anyone? I used to say things like, he's obsessed with trains or he's perseverating on something. But once I changed that to he's deeply motivated by trains or their intrinsic interest is earth, I realized it wasn't just a language shift. It was really a mindset shift. And at 47, I think I'm proof too that you can shift your thinking because I used to think in this deficit mindset based, and now I really think in that neuro strength based mindset. So today I want to dive into why changing our words actually changes our mindset. It changes everything, including how safe and understood someone feels. So, Sue, as an autistic professional, what does it feel like for you when someone uses language like perseverates or obsesses compared to is passionate about or a strong interest in? How does that difference in wording really affect how safe or accepted you feel?
Oh, I mean, I grew up that way, just not that people said a lot in front of me about those kinds of things, but those words were always, I took them to mean me because I was always compared to this is what you're expected to do versus this is what you're not doing. And it became very negative. It got to the point where I liked myself until I got to school. And I started hearing some of those words applied to me that I began to hate myself. And I had this negative feeling about myself. I'm still fighting it to this day of being so self-critical and having to remind myself, okay, but this is who you are, and it's okay to be this way. If I only had someone when I was younger say, it's okay to be different. It's okay to stim or to stand there in posture, or it's okay. It's a little strange, but that's okay. All they had to do was say it's okay. And I would have
Yeah.
felt so much better about things. But they didn't. It's always these, and I call them subconscious bias that we pick up from other people. And it's subconscious. No one teaches us how to be, think negatively of other people. Children, you watch children, they don't have these negative biases and they're very accepting and they learn it, but subconsciously They're not taught it. It's subconscious. And when we say those things, it does impact on the people to whom it is directed. Because now we feel we're taking on other people's judgments of ourselves and judging ourselves. And there is such a thing as a intrinsic ableism. In other words,
Yeah.
I've internalized that attitude that this world is for the able and the people that can do, and you're expected, I'm sorry, you just have to catch up. You just have to work harder. That's all. If you work harder, you can be this too. But that's the subconscious bias
Yeah.
that that lends itself to all this. We're not purposely being mean or nasty to other people by using those words or hurting their feelings. In fact, we're trained to not hurt other people's feelings. But those words still come out when we make judgments about other people. Um, and it's kind of hard to stop making those judgments unless it gets to the conscious part of the brain and you start to realize, you know what, that was kind of not very productive. That's not very helpful to think that way. And if you can consciously change your mind shift to looking at it from another perspective, that's where the change has got to come from. You have to
Yeah.
recognize you have these tendency to judge things and recognize as soon as you made a judgment, oh no, wait a minute, is that judgment really fair to that individual? Or should I be looking at it from another perspective? Would it be more helpful? Would it, in terms of helping? I mean, I'm here to help that individual. Would it be more helpful for them? I mean, because thinking negative things doesn't get me what I want. It doesn't get them what I want from them. So why not rethink it?
And I feel like this applies to really all neurodivergent individuals. Especially I think about even just with ADHD, like we are impulsive, we are blunt, we say what we think. And I remember constantly being told, Stacy, you can't say that. And there's a saying,
Mhm.
neurodivergent individuals hear at least 10 negative things to every one positive thing. And then people wonder why some neurodivergent individuals are so negative either towards themselves or other people. Well, they're deflecting how they feel about themselves because people are always talking to them in such a negative way. And it is what our brain like sticks to is that negativity. And so consciously thinking, okay, how could I shift this to a positive? Saying and not saying toxic positivity, right? Like everything doesn't have to be, rainbows and unicorns. There are moments where, yeah, they do need some feedback, but it could be compassionate feedback. And it doesn't always have to make someone feel crappy about themselves. And it could be talking about feelings and those uncomfortable things. But it is so important that when we're talking about autistic individuals, differences, that it isn't described as a negative thing. Because, like you said, then they're going to start thinking negatively about themselves. And it's just a difference. Just because someone has a super strong interest in weather or dinosaurs or trains or time doesn't mean that it's a behavior by any means. Now, if they're struggling with focusing on class because they're thinking about something that they intrinsically are motivated by, tap into that strength, incorporate it, talk about how it could be used in that moment. I had a student where he was learning about graphing. I forget, it was algebra, I believe, and he had zero interest, and it was really hard for him to comprehend. But he loves Sonic. So we talked about, graphing Sonic speed on the X and Y axis and, the slope, what would make him faster. And so when I incorporated that, he loved it because he's like, oh my gosh, you're talking my language. I love Sonic. And yeah, I want to figure out how he could go faster. So he saw that his interest could be incorporated into what he was learning. And this is where, I love AI because I can't creatively always think that way. And so I highly encourage teachers and parents and professionals. I know it's a controversial topic right now, and again, like when you balance anything, like don't use it too much and make sure you read it before you put it out there. But it can help you come up with ideas so that you can tap into what their intrinsic motivation is and use that language. And again, when you learn how to understand and how to use it, your brain does start to shift to it. You no longer see that as a perseveration or an obsession. You see that as a strength and intrinsic interest that you can tap into, and that language starts to shift and you literally rewire your brain. When I read reports now and I see some of that language, that negative deficit based language, I literally cringe. Like I cringe at the fact that I used to use it and I feel awful and I wish I could go back. And so I know my goal with all of this is teaching other therapists so they aren't like me 20 years down the road and wish they could change things. They can do it now.
And you used a key word there, motivation.
Yeah.
How do you think that individual, how motivated do you think that individual is when you don't recognize their value or worth um, in working with you?
Yes.
I still struggle. Well, I don't turn to if I've got problems, if I can't solve them myself, I give up. I will not look to other people because I have learned over the years they're useless to me. They know I cannot deal with their judgments. Uh, when they offer help, subconsciously they have been taught. Oh no, uh, you don't actually help them by doing for them. You tell them what to do. Well, excuse me, that's the wrong thing for me. Telling me if I can't visualize what those words mean, they're useless words. I don't know what they mean to do. You have to show me to help me. And yet, that's not what people are subconsciously trained or taught. That's how you help someone is by telling them, not doing it for them. That's what I need. So,
Yeah. And I love how you brought that up because, we were talking about like the specific vocabulary that people use in their language, but what you're talking about that's just as equally important is the message that our language is saying, the judgment, well, why can't you figure this out kind of message we're sharing. So language isn't just vocabulary, it's also that message that we're sharing. And it's so important because if that person feels judged, yeah, that's going to make them feel awful about themselves. So part of this shift that we're making is in that language, whether it's the vocabulary we use or the message we're conveying. So, language really is powerful. It shapes how we see others and how they see themselves, especially if we're using it to describe them. So, this week, just take a moment to notice the words that you use, whether in speaking to people, in writing it in your soap notes, in your reports, and speaking to the individual. And what's one phrase that maybe you can reframe to reflect understanding of the individual instead of a judgment? Maybe even curiosity of, I noticed you did this. I'm curious. What were you thinking? Or why did you want to do it that way? And remember, every time you shift your language, you're helping someone feel seen, not fixed, and you're moving in that direction of shifting your mindset to the neuro strength based lens of supporting autistic individuals. So, thank you for that great insight, Sue.
thank you for asking, Staci.